I can't believe I'm about to expose myself on the internet like this. But here goes. When I decided to go all in on working for myself about 2.5 years ago now, I knew at the time that I was signing up for a paycheck that would look different every day, and some days that might mean not getting paid at all. I was well aware that this was the life I was signing up for, and I was okay with it at the time. 2.5 years later though, things have changed. Having an inconsistent paycheck has humbled me in ways that I did not expect. And I really underestimated the toll it was gonna take on my self-worth. Like, if I were to plot a graph of my income over time since I started working for myself, and I were also to plot a graph of how good I felt about myself over this same time span, those two graphs would look more or less the same. The more money I made, the better I felt about myself. The less money I made, the worse I felt about myself. I did not realize how much I tied my value as a person to my income until I no longer had the thing that was apparently stabilizing my self-worth, a consistent paycheck. And I knew I needed to fix this because I plan on working for myself for as long as I can keep working, and I don't want to be on this emotional roller coaster for the next 30 plus years. And so I dug into the research, and honestly, it was really healing, mainly because I discovered that I am definitely not alone in this. There is actually quite a solid body of research on this connection between self-worth and money. I even found out that there's a term in psychology to describe this thing I was experiencing: financial contingency of self-worth, aka how much you stake your worth as a person in your financial success. Maybe this is something you can relate to as well. If you've ever felt like you weren't good enough because your bank account was running low, or because you weren't making as much as you thought you should be, or your business wasn't growing fast enough, your self-worth might be tied to your money too. If you can relate to any of that, then this video is for you. I'm going to be sharing with you everything I've learned in my research on the psychology of money and self-worth, and 3 very practical ways that I've applied this knowledge to my own life to make sure that I feel good about myself no matter what my paycheck looks like. But first, if you are new to my channel, hi, I'm Audrey, I am a therapist, and on this channel we talk about tools for strengthening our relationships with others and with ourselves. Our relationship with money is a really important part of our relationship with ourselves. So I wanted to make a 2-part video series on how to have a healthy relationship with money. Today we have part 1, where we're talking about how to stop tying your self-worth to money. And next week in part 2, we're going to be talking about how to stop being so anxious and overwhelmed about money. So if this is a topic that interests you and you're not subscribed yet, make sure to do that so that you don't miss part 2, which is coming out next week. Also, all the necessary disclaimers of I'm not a financial expert, I have 0 formal background in finance, I'm just someone who is interested in personal finance and likes to learn about it. Yes, I'm a therapist, but I'm not your personal therapist, so this is not meant to be prescriptive in any way. I am simply sharing my experience on the internet, and hopefully it helps some of you to feel heard or gives you some thought starters on your own journey. If you are looking for advice for your own personal situation, then please seek support from the appropriate professionals that is personalized to you. Okay, now with all of that out of the way, let's dive into the psychology of money and self-worth. We've got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, there is absolutely a well-established link between income and self-esteem. This is a meta-study, which a meta-study is basically a summary of many, many studies, in this case 446 of them. And the main takeaway from all of these studies was that people with higher incomes tend to have higher self-esteem. And what I found really interesting is that this was especially true for Asians and Asian Americans.
Not your fault.
You're right. It's not my fault. It's your fault!
At first glance, this seems like a good thing. Like, who's complaining about having better self-esteem and more money? But if we were to stop there, we wouldn't be getting the full picture, and we might even be doing ourselves some harm. We need to dig deeper and look at, why does self-esteem increase with income? And is it because of the income? And if so, what does that mean for us? According to this 2017 study, placing a high importance on financial success is actually linked to a bunch of unfavorable things, like lower self-esteem and life satisfaction, more anxiety and depressive symptoms, physical health problems, and more maladaptive behaviors. So the researchers looked into why this happens, and what they found was that the more people base their self-worth on their financial success, the more they compare their financial status with others, experience financial hassles, stress, and anxiety, and felt less autonomy and control over their lives. And this still held true regardless of how much money you actually had. You could be Jeff Bezos and you still wouldn't be immune to any of this. Now, I am obviously not in the same tax bracket as Jeff Bezos, but I can still say from personal experience that this is all 100% a thing. And I want to share a personal story that feels very vulnerable to share, but I know I can't be the only one who has gone through this, so it's fine. In the first 2 months of my business, I made no money. Zero. And I felt so much shame about that, and I thought about it all the time. Like, I would literally be on a beautiful nature walk with my dog, and all I would be thinking about is, wow, I feel so shitty about myself because I haven't made any money in so long, quote unquote. And I hid the fact that I wasn't making any money because I was embarrassed, and I was worried that if people found out, that they would respect me less, which is really interesting to reflect back on now, because like, why did I think I was less deserving of respect because I wasn't making any money? Like, to say it out loud, it sounds so sad. Like, I would never think that about someone else who quit their job that was draining them to pursue their dreams. And in fact, I would think the opposite. I would respect and admire them even more. So why couldn't I feel the same way about myself? We'll come back to the answer that I eventually landed onto this question, but for now, let's look at one more disturbing study. This 2020 study from the same team of researchers found that people with financially contingent self-worth tend to be lonelier and more socially disconnected. They're more likely to focus on themselves instead of others, and they're less likely to seek support or interact with people. Why? Well, the researchers suggest that when your self-worth is contingent on your financial success, you're probably going to feel pressured to succeed in this area, and you might spend a lot of time working and hustling and trying to earn more, and this often comes at the expense of time spent on things that don't have any immediate payoff, such as spending time with friends and family. And you know what? I'd be lying if I said that this hasn't been somewhat true for me as well. In the past 2 years, I have been really focused on building my business, and I wouldn't say it's gotten to the point where I've been so single-minded and I've completely neglected my relationships, but maybe I have become a bit inflexible with my time and what time of day or day of the week I'm willing to carve out for relationships. Definitely meeting new people has completely fallen to the wayside. Even though I've been saying for months now, oh, it'd be nice to meet some new people and make some new friends, I just have not been putting the effort. And if I'm being honest with myself, it's because it just hasn't been a priority compared to work for me. And it's getting to the point now where this decision to deprioritize my social life is really catching up to me. And yeah, I have been feeling lonely in the friendship department, and I've been feeling like something is missing in my social life. And I think this is a pretty common experience, especially in our 20s, when there is so much emphasis placed on career success. It is dangerous how easy it is to devalue friendships, and that's just not okay. Now, here's an important caveat, because all of this research is pretty unsettling, and it might make it seem like pursuing money or caring about financial success is a bad thing, but that's not the point that the researchers were trying to make. Pursuing money isn't the problem. There were also people in these studies who were financially driven but didn't experience these negative consequences to their mental health. So what made them different? It came down to why someone pursues money. If the reason why is because they're trying to raise their self-esteem or even to protect or maintain it, that's when their mental health was likely to suffer. If the reason was something else though, like wanting a safety net or wanting freedom and independence or even wanting a raise because they think they're worth it, that's a different story. Money matters, whether we like it or not. We live in a society, famously, and in this society, having money can completely transform our lives, to say the least. It can allow you to walk away from a job you hate and pursue your dreams without disintegrating in the process if you don't make money right away. Money can improve your health. You can buy healthier food and afford better care. Money can even improve your relationships. You can afford to move closer to family if you want, or go on trips where you guys end up making core memories that you talk about for years. Who can blame anyone for wanting these things that money can bring? So wanting money isn't bad in and of itself. We just need to make sure that that desire is coming from a healthy place. So how do we do that? How do we maintain a strong sense of self-worth no matter how much money we're making? And from this place, we can pursue more money if we want to. I'm gonna share with you the 3 practical things that I've done to help me to do just that, and I hope that they can help you too. Number 1 is to understand why you tie your self-worth to your money in the first place. If we're gonna untangle our self-worth from our money, we need to look at where this association even came from. So let's just dive right in and let's kick things off with some self-reflection. I invite you to answer the following question. When did I first learn that my worth depends on my achievements or how much money I make? Feel free to pause the video here and take some time to think about it, journal it out, and when you have your answer, we'll keep chatting. If your answer is anything like mine, you might have also realized that you learned this pretty early on, and maybe growing up you also got the message, whether it was explicit or not, that in order to be worthy of love and validation and acceptance, you need to earn it through achievement. And this makes sense. Our sense of self-worth starts to develop very early on in life, largely from messages that we've received from our family and our upbringing. Surprise, surprise. And I think this is a pretty common experience for children of immigrants. A lot of us grew up with this unspoken expectation that we are going to grow up to be accomplished, professional, financially stable adults. And this was just not up for debate. And our parents might have poured all of their resources into making sure that this happens, and not living up to this expectation was just out of the question. It might not even have been something that crossed our mind. This is simply what we must do to prove our worth as a person. But even if you don't have immigrant parents and you didn't get these messages in your family growing up, you probably still picked them up by osmosis just by existing in this capitalistic society. We are constantly shown that the more money you make, the more respect and admiration that you get. And when this is the world that you grow up in, it's hard to not equate your net worth with your self-worth. In doing this reflection, I hope it became clear to you that this belief that you are only as worthy as your income or your accomplishments, it's just that. It's a belief. It was conditioned. It's not some universal truth about who you actually are. And having this self-awareness is the first step to unlearning and stop misplacing our worth in our money and our accomplishments, and instead place it where it actually lies. Where exactly is that? I hear you ask. I had the same question. We're gonna find out in step 2. Throughout this whole unlearning process, one thing I've come to realize is how dangerous it is to place your self-worth in things that are external to you and that you have no control over. When you tie your self-worth to your money, you hand your power over to something that could change at any moment for reasons that have nothing to do with you. There could be a recession, you could lose your job, you could get injured and not be able to work for a while. Your financial situation could completely change overnight, and that is a really shaky foundation for something as important as your self-worth. And this isn't just the case with money. This is the case whenever we outsource our self-worth to anything external to us, whether it's our appearance or our job title or other people's opinion of us. So instead, we want to root our self-worth in something steady, something that is completely within our control and that can't be taken away from us. And that is our unique gifts, strengths, and talents. This is the real value that you add to the world, and this is where your true worth lies. It's innate. It's not something that you need to earn. The thing is though, sometimes we might not even be aware of what our strengths and gifts are, and we might not even see these qualities as anything special. So I want to give you 2 things that you can do to help you recognize your strengths. The first being doing this strengths test. This is on high5test.com. I have mentioned this test on my channel before, but it is such a great self-esteem building exercise. So in case you missed it the first time, I wanted to mention it again. Basically, you fill out this questionnaire and it gives you your top 5 strengths. Here are my results if you're interested. I think I did this quiz back in 2020, and since then, whenever I found myself losing sight of my worth, I found it really helpful to come back to my results and remind myself that, oh yeah, I do have these strengths and gifts, and this is what I have to offer to the world, not my salary or my accomplishments. It's also free, so I'll leave a link in the description to the test if you're interested. The second thing you can do to recognize your strengths is to ask the people closest to you, hey, what do you think my strengths are? I also did this a few years back as part of another self-esteem building exercise, and it was uncomfortable, but it was also just so nice and wholesome and touching to hear what my loved ones had to say about what they thought my best qualities are. And a lot of the things that they said were things that I didn't even realize about myself. So I would highly recommend that you do this as well and write down the responses that you get. This way you can go back to them and remind yourself of your worth if you ever find yourself questioning it. Your strengths and gifts say a lot more about you than your salary. All your salary is a number. It's not a judgment of your character. Your salary says nothing about how kind or loving or how good of a person you are. And from some of these examples of rich people's lives I've been reading in finance books, there are a lot of high salary people out there that are just straight up unkind. Your true worth is in your strengths and gifts. And these things are constants. They're not transactional. So no matter what your bank account is doing, that's not going to change anything about your innate worth. Number 3, don't settle for less in your financial life. This one might sound a bit contradictory at first because the whole point of this video has been to how to know your worth regardless of your money, but bear with me, I promise it all makes sense. This is a video on the psychology of self-worth and money, and it would be a huge disservice to talk about this topic without also touching on the fact that sometimes your salary can reflect how much you believe in your worth. Let me explain. Imagine that one friend you have who is in a toxic relationship and the person they're with is just not treating them well. You want to scream at them, or maybe you have screamed at them, girl, what are you doing? Like, you deserve so much better. And they hear you, but they continue to stay and accept the bad treatment. Maybe you've been this friend. I know I have before, and if so, then you'll understand that part of the reason why someone stays in an unhealthy relationship and continues to accept bad treatment is because deep down, they don't believe they deserve any better. Whether we're talking about our romantic life or our financial life, the costs of not knowing our worth are the same. We are at risk of settling for less than what we deserve. We don't negotiate that raise. We stay in that job that is underpaying us, and we undersell ourselves. And when we do that, we perpetuate this belief that we are not worthy of more, and it just becomes this negative cycle that's really hard to break. This is why striving for a higher income can be a healthy way to build a sense of worthiness if the reason why you're earning more is because you don't think you're worth it. There is a difference between having financially contingent self-worth and financial self-esteem. And according to this Psychology Today article, people with high financial self-esteem feel secure and competent in this area of their life, and they believe in their ability to make money and manage their money responsibly. And this is a very healthy part of overall self-esteem. This is the ideal place we want to get to in our financial lives. Not telling ourselves that money doesn't matter at all, and not chasing financial success so that we can finally feel worthy, but instead striving for financial success because we already know we are worthy. For me, building my financial self-esteem has been a journey too. I still remember the moment when I realized that mine was pretty low. It was back in 2020 when I started my first business as a health coach, and the first time I charged for my coaching services instead of coaching people for free as part of my beta program, I felt a visceral repulsion. I charged $400 for 8 one-hour coaching sessions. And it was just so uncomfortable. And the hardest part of all of that was how it completely caught me off guard, how uncomfortable it was to charge for my services. Like, I thought that I would be happy and excited that I was finally making money in my business that I cared about so much and that I had worked so hard on. I didn't expect to question whether I should be getting paid at all. That moment showed me a lot about where I was at with my self-worth at the time. And it took a while after that for me to start to genuinely feel worthy of getting paid and for that visceral repulsion to go away. And I can think of 2 things that really helped. The first being practice. I kept asking. I started off with asking for $400 for 8 sessions, and once that started to feel okay, I raised my rates to $800, all the way up to $1,200 for 8 one-hour coaching sessions, and that was a big deal for me. And the second thing was gaining experience. The more I worked with clients, the more I saw that I can actually have a real positive impact in their lives. And every time I got a piece of positive feedback, that built up my belief more and more that, hey, I'm actually not bad at this. I actually have something to offer here, and maybe I do deserve to be paid for this. And over time, this became a positive cycle. The more positive experiences I had, the more confidence I gained in my strengths, and the more worthy I felt of being paid for them. Sadly, I could no longer continue my health coaching business once I started working full-time, which is still low-key heartbreaking for me. However, I am really happy that I did eventually decide to honor my entrepreneurial side again and go all in on working for myself. And 5 years of experience later of charging people for my services, this feels like second nature to me at this point, which is a feeling that I could not have even imagined when I first started out. So the main takeaway from this whole story is sometimes an important part of recognizing your worth is getting comfortable asking for money, whether that is charging for your services in your business or asking for a raise or going for a higher paying job. This requires you to be confident in your strengths and know what you bring to the table and believe that you deserve to be paid for it. And this is very different from seeing your financial success as proof of your work. Instead, we're seeing our financial success as an expression of the worth we already know that we have. And this is a delicate balance to strike. And clearly I have been out of balance many times, otherwise this video wouldn't exist. I am still on this journey of separating my self-worth from my money and making sure I pursue financial success from a healthy place. But these 3 things have been a really great starting point for me, and I hope they can be for you too. I really want this video to be a conversation, so please let me know your thoughts in the comments so that I can respond to you. And also, I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation next week, where we're going to be talking about how to feel less anxious and overwhelmed about money. So I hope to see you there. And in the meantime, if you are looking for more support on this whole building self-esteem and self-worth thing, I will leave some of my previous videos on the screen now for you to check out if you'd like. But in any case, as always, I hope you're doing well. I appreciate you, and I will see you next time. Bye.